Hello everyone. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. Question for you. What is the oldest law firm in the United States of America? It's the Army JAG Corps, founded in 1775 by George Washington. The United States Army JAG Corps is the oldest law firm in the country. A lot of you have asked me questions about how to join the Army JAG Corps. You know that I served as a military intelligence officer in the Army, and then I did an intra-service transfer and transferred over into the Army JAG Corps. So I know you guys got all the questions, and I can't tell you I have all the answers, but I have a lot of the answers, and I'm happy to share those with you today. So stick around. We're going to get into how you join the Army JAG Corps, ways you can make your application stick out, and we're also going to get into some frequently asked questions like, what do you do as an Army Judge Advocate, whether you're looking to go active duty or you're looking to come in via the Guard or the Reserve? The most common way to come into the Army JAG Corps is via direct commission. Now, before I talk to you about that process, let's go over some basic eligibility criteria. Number one, you must be a U.S. citizen to join the United States Army JAG Corps. Number two, you must have graduated from an ABA accredited law school. You must be able to pass a security clearance, and usually to be able to pass a security clearance, you need to have things like no felonies on your record, good credit, things like that. If you have more specific questions about the security clearance, let me know. Another requirement is that you have been admitted to the bar of either a federal court or the highest court of any state or Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. And another standard you'll have to meet is the Army's physical fitness standard. So those are the basic standards you have to meet before you can apply to the Army JAG Corps via the direct appointment program. So with the basics out of the way, let's get into the specifics of how you apply for a direct appointment. Now, you will want to start looking at the JAG Corps Army recruiting website ASAP. It's a wealth of information. In fact, let's take a look at that now together. This is a look at JAG CNET, and this is the website you need to visit if you are interested in becoming an Army Judge Advocate. One thing you should note offhand is that applications to the Army JAG Corps are due no later than October 1. So make sure you keep that in mind. By October 1, you must submit your entire complete application and conduct an interview. So you really got to get the ball rolling on this. I suggest you start the application process at least 3 months prior to October 1 to make sure you have all the materials required plus your interview under your belt by October 1. A lot of things are required with your application, but just quickly, you'll need your undergraduate, your graduate, and your law school transcripts. So a transcript must be submitted for each institution where a degree was earned or where a degree is currently in process. And all of your transcripts must be issued by the registrar and must include your name, the institution name, and of course your GPA information should be there as well. You will also include an updated copy of your resume. And you will also need to type up a short personal statement describing your interest in the Army JAG Corps. This statement should not exceed 2,500 words, so make sure you adhere to that. If you are already licensed to practice law, And again, most people graduate from law school and take the bar before applying to the JAG Corps in the direct appointment program. So, if you are licensed to practice, you will need to also submit a certificate of good standing, which of course you will get from the bar that you are admitted to. If you are prior service, make sure you include any prior military service documents, like your DD-214. And you'll also need letters of recommendation. These are optional, however, I strongly suggest that you include these. You don't have to include 3 letters of recommendation, although up to 3 may be submitted. And I highly recommend that you submit at least 2 letters of recommendation. And if you're trying to think of people you can ask for a recommendation, I suggest a law school professor that you've taken at least 2 courses with, and of course, hopefully you did well in their class. And if you can't think of any law professors, perhaps there's a college professor that you're still in touch with and you got to know him or her very well in college, you performed well in his or her courses, so that's also a good option. Of course, if you are prior service, it would be great if you submitted a letter of recommendation by a former commander, or if you know someone currently serving in the military and they know you personally and can speak to your leadership skills. That would also be someone that you could think about, asking for a letter of recommendation. So those are the basics of the actual application itself. As for the interview, you must interview with an Army Judge Advocate designated as a Field Screening Officer or FSO. So what you can do is you can speak to the Career Services Office at your law school, and they will probably have contact information for a nearby FSO, Field Screening Officer. Or you could also just, try to do a Google search for the closest FSO and just reach out to them and let them know that you're applying to the JAG Corps. And you're off to the races, folks, at that point. Remember, October 1, 2021 is the deadline to apply. One of the most commonly asked questions is, what type of training do I have to do if I submit my application and I receive an offer to join the Army Judge Advocate General's Corps? Well, if you come in through the direct appointment program, and again, this is how most people join the JAG Corps, and you'll generally apply for a direct appointment after you graduate from law school and after you take the bar, or you'll apply during your 3L year. So keep in mind, you can apply during your 3L year. It's just that you'll need to supplement your application with your bar passage results once you take and pass the bar. And you'll also need to supplement your application with your final transcript from law school after you graduate. In any event, if you come in through the direct appointment program, what are the training requirements? Well, the first phase is a rigorous 6.5-week program in leadership and Army tactics, and it's actually at Fort Benning, which is in Georgia, and it's called DCC, the Direct Commissioned Officers Course. So it's designed to challenge brand new Army officers mentally, physically, and emotionally, and you'll be trained both in the classroom and in the field. Now, what type of field, training exercises will you be doing? Well, be prepared to go on ruck marches. Be prepared to go to the gas chamber. If you want to hear my story about my first time in the gas chamber, go ahead and click this link up here. I talk all about it in the video. But in any event, be prepared to go and be physically fit, because you will be trained in and outside the classroom. Now, what's next? Once you graduate from this 6.5-week DCC at Fort Benning, you're going to go on to what's called TJAGLICS. It's the Judge Advocate General's Legal Center and School. It's in Charlottesville, Virginia, right there on the campus of UVA School of Law. It's a great college town. Also have some really good food there. So just take advantage of that. But anyways, You'll go to TJAGLICS in Charlottesville, Virginia, and this is a 10.5-week academic course, and you're going to learn all about how to become a judge advocate. So you're going to have a series of classes. You'll learn about international and operational law. You'll learn about administrative law. During one part of Judge Advocate Officer Basic Course, you'll even have the opportunity to do a run-through of a mock court-martial, which is a lot of fun. You'll be able to cross-examine witnesses, directly examine witnesses. You'll also be able to prepare and deliver opening and closing statements, and you'll have a teammate, and so you guys will be able to work on a fabricated case together, and you'll also have peers serving as jurors. You can actually see there's a mock jury box behind me. Hopefully you guys can see that there. So you will have your colleagues serving as jurors, and they'll hear your case and they'll render an answer, and quite frankly, it's just a whole lot of fun. You'll also meet a lot of people that will most likely cross paths with you in the future, especially if you're going active duty. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're going Guard, Reserve, or active duty. If you're brand new to the Army and you're coming into the JAG Corps through the direct appointment program, you're going to go to DCC and you're going to go to JAOBC, otherwise known as the Judge Advocate Officer Basic Course. If you have any questions about either one of these courses, please let me know, and I'm happy to answer if I can. All right, another question on everyone's mind. Let's talk money, folks. How much are you going to get paid? So if you're looking to go active duty, you're going to get what's called your basic pay, and that is based on your years in service and your rank. And by the way, you will be appointed into the JAG Corps as a first lieutenant, and generally you will be promoted to O3, which is a captain, within 6 months. So your basic pay, based on your rank and your time in service. You're also going to get something called basic allowance for subsistence. And this is a set amount that you get every month, and it's the same for all officers. You're also going to get your basic allowance for housing. Now, this is a tax-free benefit, tax-free, and it's based on the zip code you are stationed at. And of course, you had to take all of this into mind when you're calculating your net income. So, ballpark, you're going to be looking at around $85,000 a year. 85 to 95 will be your net income the first few years you are in the Army. And again, this assumes that you're coming in as a first lieutenant, and within 6 months you're promoting to captain. And you really gotta go to the BAH rates, which you can find through Google, and type in the zip code of the base you're gonna be stationed at to get that exact BAH rate. And you can also look at the BAS rates as well. And you can also just Google military pay charts, and you can pull up your basic pay. But ballpark, your net income is going to be $85,000 to $95,000 a year for the first couple years you're in. And keep in mind, folks, you're getting free health care. I know a whole lot of people working at law firms right now that are paying $500 a month for health care. So getting free health care is a huge benefit. And here's another big benefit. If you're going active duty, you get up to $65,000 in student loan repayment. So make sure you are asking about the student loan repayment when you are going through the application process. What are some of the things you can expect to do early on in your Army JAG Corps career? Well, a lot of people actually serve as a chief of military justice early on in their career, and that basically means you're a prosecutor. You work on behalf of the United States Army so you're going to prosecute criminal cases as well under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So perhaps there's been a sexual assault, or maybe someone was driving under the influence and crashed into someone. All kinds of fact scenarios for you to work your way through, but you'll be representing the United States Army in those cases. You will also provide legal advice to soldiers, so you'll be asked to provide advice on landlord-tenant issues, for instance, child custody issues, and this is particularly if you are working in legal assistance, which a lot of judge advocates also do early on in their careers. You'll offer legal reviews, give ethics opinions. You might even work with reviewing the fulfillment of FOIA requests. You'll give advice to commanders. If they have a problematic soldier, for instance, they'll come to you for advice. And you'll also, at some point in your career, have an opportunity to represent soldiers at courts martial or before administrative separation boards.
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question.
Usually you'll start out as a prosecutor working on behalf of the Army, but later on in your career you'll have the opportunity to switch to the other side and represent soldiers. So those are just some of the things you can expect to do if you plan to go active duty as a judge advocate. Now, if you plan to go into the Guard or the Reserve, you will attend weekend drills once a month, and you'll do things like prepare wills and powers of attorney and advance directives for health care. You'll also advise commanders if they have problematic soldiers. You'll also perhaps review ethics opinions. You can also have an opportunity to review, let's say, multi-million-dollar contracts, and you would do that as an active duty judge advocate as well. So a lot of the work is the same. It's just that you're doing it as a guardsman or a reservist on a weekend rather than doing it every day as your day-to-day full-time job. Where are you going to be stationed at? Well, of course, there are duty stations all across the United States of America. You got Fort Benning in Georgia. You've got Fort Stewart also in Georgia. You've got, Fort Hood out in Texas. Basically, we have bases all over the place. And you also have bases overseas, like in Germany, for instance, in South Korea, even in Okinawa, Japan. And what you'll do is you'll fill out what is commonly referred to as a dream sheet, and you'll list your number one job location, and you'll also have an opportunity to list 3 or 4 other job locations. Don't get upset with yourself if you don't get your number one choice, because remember, over the course of a long Army career, you can always apply for that location a second or even a third time. Now, a lot of people don't get their first choice, but eventually, if they stay in long enough, they will get their first choice. So keep that in mind. But also keep in mind there's no guarantee you're going to get your first choice. And a lot of people do not get their first choice for their very first duty station. So if you're coming into the Army JAG Corps, especially if you're active duty or hoping to go active duty, make sure that you're willing to go anywhere the Army sends you, because the Army is going to put the needs of the Army before your needs. So keep that in mind. Now, just broadly, what are some of the areas of the law that you can work in? Well, labor law, employment law, international law, operational law, admin law, and even contracts and fiscal law. And you'll learn specifically about these types of law at JAOBC, Judge Advocate Officer Basic Course in Charlottesville, Virginia. Another frequently asked question is, are there age restrictions? The answer is yes. You must be able to serve at least 20 years of service before reaching the age of 62. So that means in order to apply for and be accepted into the active duty Army JAG Corps, you cannot be any older than 42 years of age. So keep that in mind, along with the other basic requirements that we went over toward the beginning of the video. Now, what are some other questions? What are the height and weight requirements? Well, I think that if you go to this website here that I'm showing you, all you have to do is type in your height in feet and inches, and type in your age and your gender, and note if you're prior service or not, and calculate your results. And don't get discouraged if you're not meeting the weight requirements. You just know that that's something you can always, work on bringing down. But that's a very helpful site for you to go to in order to determine if you meet the height and weight standards. Of course, there are also certain medical conditions that might disqualify you, and if you have questions about those, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to address those. All right, so that is an overview of the Army JAG Corps, how you apply, where you will train, how you will train, what are some things you can expect to do early on in your career. And the only thing I would like to add is this. You can boost your chances of getting accepted by making sure you keep that law school GPA as high as possible, and make sure, if you haven't already taken the LSAT, that you buy those study books, take a prep course, and get the highest LSAT score you can get, because your LSAT score and your law school GPA will factor heavily into whether you get accepted. Also, keep in mind that the Army looks at the person as a whole. So the Army will also look at your extracurriculars. Did you write for a law review or a law journal? Did you do moot court or mock trial? Did you serve as the president of the Student Body Association? Did you serve in a clinic? And the Army will also look at your summer internships. So if you can actually get into a summer program with the Army, try to do that, but no worries if you can't. Most people coming into the Army JAG Corps did not do a summer with the Army, but try to get the best experience you can. Write briefs, sit in on depositions, things like that. And also make sure you got a banging personal statement. Make sure you are unique when you're describing why you want to join the Army, and make it personal. If your father served in the Army and that's why you want to serve in the Army, feel free to talk about that, but talk about the skill set that he developed over the course of his career, and talk about how you'd like to develop that same skill set, but take it to the next level. All right, so that's all I have for you today. I'm going to post a video a little bit later on specifically on the Air Force JAG Corps. So for those of you interested in the Air Force JAG Corps, make sure you check that out. Bye-bye for now. Good luck with your application.